everybody, I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps.
Today I'd like to show you how to make a reversible ribbing with front and back post stitches in 2 different colors.
For this pattern, this variegated color is actually my color B because I started with the blue. So the blue color is my color A. Okay, I'm going to start my ribbing with the color that I want in the back. So my first stitch is going to be a back post stitch, or the equivalent of a back post stitch, which means that I'm starting with my color B. I'm starting just with some chains. I could use a chainless starting back post double crochet with a color change in it, but that's a little bit more complicated than you need when it's not really going to show anyway because it's in the back. So I'm just going to do chains. I'm doing 2 chains to count as my back post double crochet and 1 more chain to get me over to the other color. And you can do, instead of 3, you can do 2 chains if that suits you better, but what seemed to work for me was the 3 chains with the third one, the last one, being in the next color. So this counts as my first back post double crochet, and that's right here in this stitch. Okay, so now my next stitch, I need to be a front post double crochet, and I'm doing that in blue. So I go around the post for the front post double crochet and finish my stitch almost all the way to the end. When I have 2 loops left on my hook, I drop this front color in the front. The front color always gets dropped in the front. I pick up the back color from the back and I finish my stitch. Now I'm going to do a back post for the next one, right? In the variegated color. So I do my back post stitch, and just before I finish, I switch over to my solid color. Then I do another front post stitch with my solid color, almost all the way finished, drop this in front, pick up the one in the back, and finish the stitch. Okay, do my back post stitch in the variegated color, almost finished, drop that in the back, pick up the front yarn, and finish the stitch. So now you can see everything for the front post stitches. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Everything for the front post stitches is always in the front, and everything for the back post stitches is always in the back. And that gives you a nice reversible look where you can see the back post stitch color in the back and the front post stitch color in the front. So I'm going to get all the way around the round of this hat and then come back and show you what happens on the second round. I've reached the last stitch of the round, and I'm going to do that with the blue color, because remember our first stitch was with the variegated color. So I've made sure I've got an even number of stitches in this round so that it works out evenly like that. And I'm doing my front post again only to the end of the stitch, and then I finish the stitch with the other color. So now I have the same color as what I started with up here. So I'm going to find that third, 1, 2, 3, see those 3 little V shapes there, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to find that third one and I'm going to join. Whoop. There we go. And now that counts as my back post double right there. And I've joined my round. So now let's start the next round. We're going to do the exact same thing of chaining up 2 and then chaining 1 with this yarn. And yes, I am pulling it straight up like that, and that's totally okay. All right, see that? Because when we do the next stitch, it's going to cover up that line. So don't worry about that line, just carry it right on up. Not the next stitch, but the last stitch when we do the last stitch. And you will see that when I get to that end of the round. So now I've switched to blue. I have my back post stitch there, and or the chains that count as my back post stitch. And now I'm going into the very first front post stitch. Now this is the post, and this is that little line of yarn where we changed colors, right? I'm going to make sure when I grab the post that I'm going all the way around all of that. So all of that gets caught up, and now you've got a nice clean post stitch. So now I'm bringing that up, whoop, like that. Okay, switch colors. And now we're doing the back post stitch. And this will happen naturally. You shouldn't have to think about it, but when you go around it, see how it catches that little line there? You should naturally catch the little line where the color has been changed. It should be just part of the post. So we finish that, switch over to the blue, and then we come around and do this one. And again, as long as I'm going around the whole post, I'm naturally going to catch that little line. So go around the whole post and do my stitch. And so in the end, even though you've carried colors a little ways, you're going to have what looks like completely clean post stitches. And remember, you're still always dropping the blue color at the front, the color A at the front color at the front, and you're always dropping the color B, the back color, at the back. Okay, I'm going to finish this round and show you how that first join works out when we join at the end of the round here. I haven't quite made it around, but I want to show you what happens if we're working in rows instead of rounds. So here I've ended with a front post stitch. Let's just end there. And let's turn around, but when I end it, instead of changing colors, because I'm working in rows, my first stitch is going to be the same color as my last stitch. So I'm just going to finish that as a normal stitch. Okay, now I turn it around, and you can see we've got the opposite happening with the ribbing here. So my first stitch is, now it was a front post, now it's in the back, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and do a regular double crochet. And here I'm using a chainless starting double crochet, but I'm just going to do a regular double crochet for the first stitch. Okay? But I'm going to change colors before I finish it. Now remember, the blue is now at the back, so I'm dropping that at the back. Whatever's in the back stays at the back, whatever's in the front stays at the front. So I pick up the other color in the front. Okay, now you see that line is right there where we're changing the color. So I'm going to ignore it, because when I work around this post, it pretty much covers it up. Do you see that? So I'm going to work around that post. So now you can see that my blues are at the back, and those are back post stitches now. And my multicolors are in the front, and those are front post stitches now. But other than that change, if you're working in rows, everything stays the same. Okay? If it's in the back, it's in the back. And if it's in the front, it's in the front. And they stay completely separate that way, and that's the same as if it's in the round, right? The only difference is when you turn, you're switching what's back and what's front. So let me take this out and go back to going in the round until I get all the way back around to that first stitch. I've made my way back to the beginning of the round, and here is that first stitch where we had that big loop that came up as we brought that blue up to the next round, right? So I want to show you what happens when we finish the stitch, because it kind of disappears. So we're going to do our yarn over, we're going to come in around the stitch, right? See how that pulls that up to the top when you do that? Okay, now to finish the round, we're going to change colors to that. Now ignore this, pretend that it is up at the top here. You're going to go in under it to do your join. And what that does is that brings that yarn up alongside this last stitch and connects everything, and you can see that back post stitch right there. So there is 2 rounds of front post, back post, double crochet, 2-color ribbing. Now I use double crochet. You can use half double crochet, you can use treble crochet. The only thing you're going to need to change if you change the stitch is to change the number of chains you use when you start for your first back post stitch. Let's take a look from the other side. And there you have the other side with the other color more dominant. And that is front post and back post 2-color ribbing. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, or leave me a comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more great videos. Thanks for watching!